Okay, this is hangout for the last one of the active improve modules. What we've done so far is let the kids look at working in pairs to get better at an individual skill. We've let them work in a small group, working out like a little movement sequence or that sort of thing, maybe a dance or a passing sequence. And then just recently we've let them find an aspect of a real sport or a team sport or a game that they wanted to focus on and improve on. Okay, and so now it's really cool. Basically, what you can let them do is spend the next 3 or 4 weeks picking something that they may have just touched on a little bit that they want to get better at. It might be that they pair up and they decide to get better at basketball layups or something. It might be that they get back into their groups and want to perform a dance or some sort of routine that's more like a movement sequence or maybe a gymnastics type thing, kind of like that group thing. Or it could be that they want to get better at some aspect of sport. So basically you might have a brainstorm of things that you've done over the last 6 weeks that they've tried out and that they thought they were making some progress with. And then you give them 4 weeks to go about the business of improving. So what you'll end up with your class is maybe some peers working together, some small groups of 5 or 6, and then you might end up with quite a large group of maybe 8 kids or something working on something out of a netball game or some sort of aspect like that. So the key things are though that you've got to require the students to record or document their progress along the way. Okay, so that they have to state what they're trying to improve and then work their way through that flow chart of taking some feedback and then videoing themselves and getting some responses and then all of that sort of thing. Now, there's all sorts of ways they could do it. They could make posters or some sort of journals or an ebook or something. So this is just a little idea I've put together. This is using, I think, Book Creator or something like that, and I've just separated the pages out. So someone could make a little journal like this where they say they're getting better at, and there's a picture of a vault, and this was from park or urban running that we did earlier on. And then the next thing, they give it a go, and they might put a little video there. And then they get some feedback, and my partner told me, so they'd record the type of things that their partner told them. This app itself here, this Explain Everything app actually is a really good idea. They could have video feedback this way. Then they add some photos and talk about how they went about responding to that feedback and what they did, and make some little notes about things the partner told them, and here's a photo of them trying to give it a go, or a video of them giving it a go, or it might just be some documentation. Then they get an expert in. So we had a guy come in, and this is a little video. I don't know if, no, it won't work because that's just a photo, but it's a photo of a video. So we had a guy whose business was urban running from Ventus, and he came and showed them some cool stuff about how to do vaults and get over obstacles. And they record things they noticed or that they heard the expert tell them, and then they go about the business of getting better. So basically they're making some sort of journal of their journey from wanting to get better at something through to actually getting better at something. Along the way they will have recorded some feedback from their partners, they will record some advice from some experts or some ideas they found from when they researched from the experts, or they might have just watched videos and things like that. Get them to do a little reflective journal. So you can push play on this one. I won't hold up time, but this was really kind of a cool little thing. A couple of kids just playing a game of throw the ball against the wall and try and keep it going. One person threw the ball against the wall. It was allowed to bounce on the ground once, and then the next person had to catch the ball, throw it against the wall, let it bounce once, catch it. If it bounced twice, it was considered finished. Okay, so they were trying to get good at keeping the ball going that way, and they just talked into the iPad about how they thought they were going. Okay, now possible extension. I'm just going to read this out and then we'll talk about it. So basically this unit, they've explored movement and they've explored all sorts of different things about sports and games and physical skills. Then they've picked one to develop, and they've focused on it a little bit, and this is really what they're doing now, is really developing one particular thing. But if you get groups that finish a little bit early, or maybe they're just a little bit lost as to what they can do, you might like them to transfer the movement. So those three words are quite cool and interesting, really. So explore, develop, transfer is an interesting way of thinking of things. So explore first, then develop, get better at, and then transfer it into a different setting. So it's quite hard to think that one through, but perhaps they've learnt layups in basketball, okay? And then they want to apply that same sort of thinking to something else. So it might be high jump. I know that sounds weird, but that circular running, they could apply that same type of run up to a high jump. They might do something that from tennis, and then they switch it over and apply it to volleyball. They might do a dance and then apply it to teaching the dance, or expanding it to a bigger group, or changing a formation. Yeah, all sorts of things. It's sort of one of those things you probably only need, or find that one group needs you to push them into an extension or a transfer, and often it's a bit more creative and possibly a little bit silly, but it keeps them interested for a little while. So just bear it in mind. Then assessment, basically what they would do is they would add any further comments to the assessment sheet for strand D. So you have to identify reasons why this form of improvement is not very common in the school. So that's quite unusual, that they have to sort of step out of the PE lesson and have a think about why we don't do this that often at school. And they might be able to identify that actually it takes quite a lot of time, and it's quite muddly, and there's kids all over the place. It's just one of those sort of things. You want them to talk about why does PE often become the teacher telling them what to improve on and what to get better at, and why isn't it that we end up being a bit freer, and hopefully they'll realise that there's a lot of C-strand skills that are needed in order to work this way, and that'll hopefully sort of reinforce some of the teaching you're doing in the C-strand as well. Okay, it says here also you could ask them to identify barriers and the ways around this. So if you have, if your classes really enjoyed it, but they know that they didn't have enough time, or perhaps they couldn't get the gear they wanted all the time, or that sometimes teachers will ban them from certain areas, or they won't let them in the hall by themselves, that sort of stuff. Those sort of things are barriers to groups of students just improving in their own time, and you can talk through how they might go about breaking down those barriers. How can they get access to the hall at lunch times? What is the process for going through that, and that sort of thing. So anyway, I hope this makes some sense, and we'll see where we go. I'd really like to see some of these little recordings if you do make some.